What do you do when the family who discarded you suddenly wants something from you? Stella Ford never expected her family to show up at her husband's wedding, but they did intend on making her the target of their insults. After years of neglect and abuse, Stella was done being their punching bag. As her estranged family tried to humiliate her at the ceremony, she calmly turned the tables, revealing just how far she'd come. It wasn't just about standing up for herself, it was about showing them how little they truly knew her. Stay tuned to see how Stella's silence and success turned the tables on her toxic family, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories. My name is Stella Ford, and I'm 30 years old. I live with my husband, Ethan, who's 5 years older than me, and our 5-year-old son. Today, I'm attending a wedding with Ethan. While the bride and groom are acquaintances, it's really more my husband who knows them well. I only recognize them by sight. The wedding is being held at a luxury hotel, and though I know it's improper, I can't help but wonder how much all of this costs. Ethan mentioned he'd be greeting some people he knows at the venue, so I excused myself to the ladies' room. As I was leaving the restroom to return to the ceremony, I overheard some unpleasant voices. "Oh, look who's here, that defective piece of goods! Why is she in a place like this?" "What do you mean, Mom? Oh my goodness, you're right! Why? We didn't invite her!" I could feel the sting of their words, sharp and cutting. They weren't even trying to whisper. These weren't just snide remarks anymore, they were outright insults, but they hadn't addressed me directly. I didn't want to get involved with people who would say such nasty things, so I tried to hurry away. "Wait right there, you ugly thing! I know you can hear me!" I wasn't sure, but it sounded like someone was calling out to me. I ignored it. My name isn't "you ugly thing." As I quickened my pace down the hallway, the sound of footsteps startled me. "You've got to be kidding! They should have stopped when I ignored them. Why embarrass themselves like this?" I thought to myself. Just as I was trying to make sense of it, someone suddenly grabbed my arm apparently. They had sprinted to catch up with me. Their nails dug painfully into my skin. "I told you to wait!" the woman snarled, breathless. I looked her up and down before shaking off her hand. She stumbled back dramatically with an exaggerated cry, as if in slow motion. What a pointless act! "Elle, are you okay?" "How violent she is! I suppose this is what happens when someone with such a low intellect is raised." Another woman chimed in, supporting the first. She glared at me. "Excuse me, but what is this about? Who are you?" "What? Who am I?" I echoed, raising an eyebrow. "Are you saying you've forgotten me? Well, you must be a pretty self-absorbed and rude person. Have we met somewhere before?" Her perfectly shaped eyebrows shot up in surprise. "What's your problem? How dare you speak to me like that? If you've forgotten, I'll remind you. I'm your sister, Elle. Remember now? Surely even your disappointing brain can recall that. And this is our mother. Don't tell me you've forgotten your own parent, too." I tilted my head, unfazed. Well, I suppose someone by that name might have been close to me once upon a time. These people weren't worth engaging with. My response only seemed to anger them more. At that moment, 2 men came running up to us. "Hey, what's all the commotion? We heard the shouting from over there. Elle, are you done with preparations? Oh, wait, you're still in your regular clothes. You need to change quickly. Dad, Ron, this person, there's an intruder who's crashed our wedding. Please throw her out right now." Elle, as she calls herself, points at me while shouting. Didn't anyone teach her it's rude to point at people? The 2 men's reactions upon seeing me were complete opposites. The man called Dad widened his eyes, then scowled with obvious displeasure. The man called Ron froze with a shocked expression, the color draining from his face. "Why is she here? I never thought I'd have to see her face on such a happy day." "Right, she must have snuck in here by mistake. This is awful. Please, call security right away." "Hey, what are you saying? Watch your mouth. This person is Dr. Ford," Ron shouts with a pale face. Seeing this, I mutter quietly, "So, you really don't know anything, do you?" No one notices my muttered words. "Stella, so this is where you were. I was looking for you," says a new arrival. My husband, Ethan. Everyone's attention turns to him at once. Ethan looks slightly taken aback. "Sorry, I meant to come right back, but I got caught up with some strange people," I say, with a wry smile as I move closer to him. Ethan blinks and looks around at everyone present, then he mutters, "Ah, it seems he's quickly grasped the situation. That's my Ethan." Elle, who had been staring at Ethan in admiration when he suddenly appeared, quickly switches back to glaring at me when I stand beside him. The two called father and mother still wore confused expressions, as if they haven't fully processed the situation. Ron, meanwhile, is clearly flustered. He's also the first to speak up. Dr. Ford, I'm so sorry. It seems my wife has been very rude, and my deepest apologies to your wife as well." "Hey, Elle, you apologize too." "What? Why should I apologize? She's the one who should be apologizing, this shameless person who snuck into our important wedding. I don't know how she found out about it, but this woman is our family's shame. We threw her out of the house long ago, and we were supposed to never see her face again." "What family, you say?" Ethan seems surprised by this word and looks back and forth between Elle and me. The man and woman called father and mother quickly stepped in to explain. "Oh, I'm sorry, Ron. You see, we have a good-for-nothing eldest daughter. She's such an embarrassment, we couldn't even bring ourselves to mention her. Well, we threw her out of the house 9 years ago. Really, I wonder how she found out about Elle's wedding, showing up here like this. What could she be planning? She's not trying to ruin Elle's wedding, is she? That's right, she was a foolish daughter who couldn't even get into college. Just a useless defect. She wasted her time with part-time jobs after graduation and lazed around the house, being nothing but a nuisance. She was quite the parasite. We should be thanked for taking care of her through high school." The insults kept coming. However, I had long since given up on this family and learned to gracefully ignore all manner of verbal abuse. Yes, technically, these people were my family. That's what the family register says. But in reality, my parents had doted on my sister, who was 6 years younger than me, and I had been completely neglected from the time I could remember. My father's family had been doctors for generations, running a medical clinic. My mother worked there as a nurse. On the surface, we probably looked like a family that wanted for nothing, but, in truth, we were poisoned by toxicity. When I was a child, I think there were times when I tried hard to earn my parents' love. But after hearing their incomprehensible excuse that Elle is cute and you're not, for always prioritizing my sister, I stopped expecting anything from my family. Fortunately, I was smart and liked studying, so I focused on excelling academically with the goal of getting out of the house as soon as possible. By that point, I had already accepted the role of the failed older sister to my family. "Listen here, we won't allow you to go to college. You're just a defective good-for-nothing anyway. There's no way you could get into college. You'll start working right after high school and give us money. You need to properly repay us for raising someone as unlovely as you." "That's right. You've always lacked gratitude. College expenses? We might consider it for Elle, but we won't spend another penny on you. You'll spend your life serving this household." "Well, I doubt you could get a decent job anyway," my parents told me in my 3rd year of high school. By the way, I recorded that conversation, and I've kept it to this day. By the time I was in high school, I started recording almost every abusive word and unreasonable treatment from my family. Elle, my sister, completely looked down on me due to our parents' unchanging favoritism and constantly tried to assert her superiority. "I'm going to become a doctor and take over Dad's practice. I'll work hard for Big Sister's share too." "Oh, how wonderful of you to say that. Yes, use her as an example of what not to be. Don't worry, Elle, you can do it." "That's right. We'll support you all the way, unlike your sister. Elle, you're truly our pride and joy." They would exchange these words right in front of me, deliberately showing off, and I had no choice but to watch. Yes, it was all just a charade. After graduating high school, I worked various part-time jobs as a freelancer for about 3 years. I still lived at home during this time. Despite finding my presence annoying, they wouldn't let me leave, probably wanting to keep me around to use as they pleased. But secretly, I had rented an apartment. They would say things like, "We won't forgive you if you do this," or "We won't forgive you if you don't do that." But I realized that once I became an adult, I didn't need my family's forgiveness for anything. Of course, there were complicated matters like finding a proper place to live. Since I underreported my part-time income, I was able to keep the money they demanded I give to the household to a minimum. Additionally, I started investing and gradually increased my savings. Then, when my sister was preparing for her high school entrance exams, I was kicked out of the house for the convenient reason that she claimed, "I can't concentrate on studying with you around." My parents apparently intended to forgive me and let me return home once things cooled down, but I took the opportunity to leave for good. They must have been surprised that I, who they thought couldn't do anything on my own, didn't come back, but they must have quickly stopped caring. After all, my parents only needed my sister. It's been 9 years since then, huh? While I'm lost in my thoughts, the argument between my sister and Ron, the man, is heating up. Oh, right, today is their wedding, so these two are getting married. The invitation might have had my sister's name on it, but I didn't pay attention, thinking it was just someone with the same name. That's how irrelevant this family had become to me. I'm telling you, why are you defending that woman? I've been saying she's an intruder all along. Her presence here is making the Airfell throw her out. And I've been telling you, I invited them to this wedding. You checked the invitation list with me, didn't you? They've already checked in at reception. They're proper guests. Anyway, apologize for being so rude earlier. The two argue back and forth. Is it really okay for them to be fighting like this before the wedding ceremony? While I'm thinking, my father suddenly catches my eye and has a moment of realization. Could he be the son of Ford General Hospital? What? Ford General Hospital? That huge hospital? You mean the director's son? At these words, my mother's eyes widen. Hospital director's son. Their attention, my parents, my sisters, and her husband's, all focuses on us at once. Ethan gives a slight bow. How do you do? I'm Ethan Ford. This is my wife, Stella. Hello. I also bow slightly and smile sweetly. Indeed, Ethan's parents are both excellent doctors who run a long-established large hospital. Ethan is their heir. He himself is a promising doctor who never stops improving his skills. My parents gape and open and close their mouths like fish as they watch me smile with perfect elegance. My sister's husband quickly jumps in. Oh, what a coincidence that Dr. Ford's wife is my wife's sister. This makes us family, Dr. Allen. Thank you for seeing our son the other day. I cut off his words. This man, Alan Ron, who is becoming my sister's husband, is also a doctor. He works at a university hospital and recently examined our son, who hasn't been feeling well lately. That's the extent of our relationship, although it seems Ethan has had various professional interactions with him before. Apparently, Alan admires Ethan. How is your son doing? Based on my examination, he needs immediate treatment. Please, come to our hospital for initial testing, and... well, we decided to get another opinion afterward. You know how important second opinions are, right? As I continue with a sweet smile, he freezes completely. It seems Alan sees my son as a VIP patient. That's why he's so desperate to treat him at his hospital. However, it's not pleasant to have a patient, especially my own son, viewed as a cash cow. I reject him with a smile. Then, a derisive snort breaks the tension. What's this? Are you trying to get back at us just because you're a high school graduate? You think you're something special for catching a doctor husband? How stupid can you be? Just because you married the heir to a big hospital doesn't make you any more important. Your education level hasn't changed. Your thinking is so shallow, and you even have a son. How pitiful for a child to have such a defective person as a mother. Hey, Elle, that's enough. Alan's voice cuts through, his tone urgent as he tries to stop her. These are blood relatives, aren't they? Why do you keep saying such things? But Elle doesn't even look at him. She glares, convinced that every word out of her mouth is the truth. Suddenly, Ethan turns to me, his expression hardening. Stella, are these people really your family? No, I say, my voice steady despite the weight of the question. They're not family at all. After all, family doesn't suddenly yell at you for no reason or withhold food for a day just because you spilled a little on the table. They don't give me hand-me-downs from who knows where and laugh when my sister gets brand-name dresses. They don't throw away my study materials, saying, "You're stupid anyway, you don't need these." They don't ruin textbooks by soaking them in water, do they? No, these people aren't family anymore. You're right. Ethan continues, his tone cold and factual. Family doesn't throw you outside barefoot in the winter because you didn't lend a book to your sister or lock you in a storage shed during the summer and call it discipline. They don't sell your belongings without permission or tell you to your face that they'll work you like a slave for the rest of your life. Even the neighbors noticed something was wrong with how the clinic treated the sisters differently. They suspected abuse and stopped bringing their children to a clinic run by people who would treat their own child that way. I'm surprised no one reported them for child abuse back then. Now their business is suffering because of it, but they haven't even realized why. It's something else. The room falls silent as our matter-of-fact exchange unfolds, revealing the ugly treatment I endured in the past. Alan's eyes widen, clearly shocked, and my parents too look surprised. Surprised that their daughter, the one they thought had long forgotten them, knew about the decline of their clinic. But this information didn't come from me. It was from my in-laws, who had conducted their own investigation. They were deeply sympathetic about the abuse I suffered, and if anything, they were angrier than I was. They're kind, compassionate people, and Ethan is just as much the same. They had been looking into my parents' clinic, possibly for revenge someday, though I never expected it would come to this. "Hey, stop telling lies," my father snaps. "We never did any of that. It's your fault for being a failure." "Ron, don't believe what this woman says," my sister shouts defiantly. But it's already too late. Alan is looking at her with clear disgust. If only she hadn't chased after me when I tried to ignore her, none of this would have happened. "No," Alan interrupts, his voice steady. "You're the one who's been lying all along." "What do you mean? You said Dr. Ford's wife only graduated high school?" "She's a college graduate who started a company and is its president, a medical food company that even our hospital relies on." "What?" My sister stares at me, wide-eyed, disbelief written all over her face. My parents mirror the same expression. "Don't you dare lie! You only graduated high school!" "What's this about college? Are you saying you went to college without telling us?" "Yes, I did. After all, I was an adult, and I had no reason to report anything to people who weren't really family anymore, right?" "How dare you speak to your parents that way? We told you we wouldn't allow you to go to college." "And why exactly did I need your permission?" When I respond with exasperation, my parents grind their teeth. During my time as a part-time worker, after high school graduation, I had saved up a considerable amount of money. I used part of it for college XP expenses. There were still things I wanted to learn and things I wanted to do. Once I left home, I was completely free and could do anything. I met my current husband during college while I was starting my company. Thinking back on it makes me nostalgic again. Meanwhile, my sister was muttering something with a pale face. "It's a lie." Because this one was a defective failure, a useless older sister who couldn't do anything on her own. I thought she must have died in a gutter somewhere after being thrown out of the house, but instead, she even went to college, and now she's a company president, and she caught the air to a big hospital. Why? I was supposed to be the one who would definitely be happier. Why? Why are you more successful than me? Why do you look so happy? I wonder why. Maybe because I kept working hard without becoming bitter, even while receiving unreasonable treatment from my family. Well, I guess I was pretty lucky too. I said this while looking back at my sister. Then I dropped a bombshell. "By the way, I heard you actually dropped out of middle school. Is that true?" With those words, the atmosphere froze completely. The former family members and Alan all went rigid. "What? What are you suddenly talking about? Who dropped out of middle school?" My sister's nerve to talk back is impressive even now. "Actually, I heard from our kind aunt, who's always been good to me after I left home. You got complacent, thinking you could easily get into any prestige school and didn't study at all. Then you showed up on exam day and turned in almost blank papers. Of course you failed. Then you threw tantrums at home and became a shut-in. You only started going out recently. That was after our parents introduced you to Dr. Allen as a suitable marriage partner, and only then did you finally break out of being a shoe-in." As I speak, Alan's face grows increasingly stern. In contrast, my parents and sister lose more and more color. The aunt who told me this is a distant relative on my father's side. She's a gossip who somehow always knows everything and tells me about it. Though we'd only met 2 or 3 times when I was little, she always looked out for me and even became my garer. You stop spreading lies! My sister tries to object with a trembling voice, but I ignore her and continue. Also, you're supposedly working as a medical office clerk at the family clinic, but that's a lie too, isn't it? You don't actually have any qualifications and are just working as an odd jobs helper, right? They can't assign specialized work to someone without qualifications. I'm glad to see they retained at least that much ethical sense. Stop it! Those are all lies! Everything you're saying is a lie! Is that so? Well, I'm just telling you what I've heard. Whether you believe it or not is up to you. When I say this, my sister whirls around to face Alan. His expression is filled with suspicion, confusion, and disgust. Elle, you told me and our parents that you graduated from a famous women's university, then got your qualifications, and we helping at the family clinic, right? Was it all lies? Academic fraud? This is fraud. You deceived me. That's not true, Ron. Don't listen to this woman. Ron, you're my husband, right? Believe me. My sister's voice trembled, desperation clawing at her words. Alan pressed her further, his expression unyielding. Then tell me the name of just one professor from the university you claim to attend. When Alan cornered her like this, my sister froze. That's not relevant right now. Oh no, then I'll call one of the professors from the department you claim to be in right now. They're acquaintances of my parents. They know me, their son, and we socialize as families. I'll ask if they've ever heard of a student named Elle, Alan said, already reaching for his smartphone. Stop it! My sister lunged forward, snatching the phone out of Alan's hand, slamming it to the floor. Don't try to verify anything. Just believe me. She ground the phone further with her heel, her face twisted into something terrifying, like a demonic mask. Alan recoiled, clearly put off. My stunned parents scrambled to stop my sister's rampage. Other wedding guests and venue staff began to gather, drawn to the spectacle. It was a scene, a loud, embarrassing one, and for the first time, I felt utterly detached. It was like watching someone else's problem unfold. This was no longer my family. My family was my husband and son. Well, my husband's voice cut through, calm and composed. Shall we go home? We've given the wedding gift, fulfilled our social obligations, right? Are you sure you're done, Stella? His unspoken question was clear. Had I said everything I needed to? Was my revenge over? I turned to him, a bright smile forming on my face. I don't care anymore. Let's go home. Oh, let's stop by the cake shop in this hotel on the way out. I want to try their super luxury cake. Sure, let's go. Let's buy some cake to take home. Laughing together, we walked out of the venue, leaving the chaos behind us. Sometime later, I heard that Alan had been sued for exaggerating diagnoses and charging excessive medical fees to his patients. Then my parents came looking for me, but of course they didn't have my contact information anymore. Word spread that they showed up at my husband's hospital, demanding to see me and him. Listen here, they said. The wife of this hospital's heir is our daughter. Let us see her right now. You can contact her through this hospital, can't you? We're in trouble here. She's family. She has to help us. We're just asking her to repay us for raising her. That's right, they added. I never thought she'd be useful, but I guess it was worth raising her. Who would have thought she'd catch an even better husband than Elle? We're his son's in-laws, of course. He should help us. Say, they apparently caused a scene at the reception. But when they were confronted, it wasn't me or my husband who came out to meet them, it was my in-laws. My in-laws silenced them with a single icy glare and simply said, "What do you want with our daughter?" My parents froze, like a couple of frogs before a snake. They scurried away, but they didn't stop trying to make contact. Eventually, their negligence caught up with them, and their clinic closed down quickly. When I heard about it, I felt nothing. After that, I heard my sister and her husband had divorced. Honestly, I was surprised their marriage lasted even a few months. Perhaps Alan getting sued and fired from the hospital was the final straw. My sister, in her misguided attempt to one-up me, tried desperately to prove she'd be happier than me. First, she became involved with a married doctor over 20 years her senior, thinking she could catch a better husband than mine. But the affair was quickly discovered, and a scandal erupted when the doctor's wife demanded compensation. Apparently, my sister turned to our parents for help, but they turned their backs on her, disowning her as a family disgrace. I don't know what happened to her after that. I heard rumors she started working at nightclubs, her health deteriorating, becoming homeless, but I didn't care. As for my parents, I heard they were desperately searching for jobs as doctors and nurses, but no hospital would hire a couple their age, nearing retirement. Well, those are just rumors. What really spread through the medical community were the stories of how they'd treated me over the years, and I had no time to waste on people who weren't even family anymore. After getting a second opinion at another hospital, my son's health issues were resolved with medication. No need for hospitalization. I protect my family. I always will. What do you do when the family you've worked so hard to support and stay connected to finally shows their true colors? Do you keep sacrificing, or do you stand firm and walk away? For Evelyn, that moment came on Thanksgiving Day. After years of being the successful, independent one in a family that thrived off her grandfather's financial support, she had had enough. The final straw was the humiliation at the Breakers Hotel, her sister's deliberate exclusion, her parents' silent complicity, and the family's toxic dependence on their grandfather. Despite the wealth and luxury they flaunted, it was all built on a fragile foundation that could crumble at any moment. Evelyn could have swallowed her pride and stayed for the sake of appearances, but instead, she chose to walk away. She didn't need their approval, their false family unity, or their superficial social media posts. She had built her life from the ground up, and she was finally seeing the consequences of their actions clearly. When Evelyn's grandfather stepped in, freezing all financial support, it became evident that their world was crumbling without her. Tiffany's social media was no longer filled with lavish vacations and designer bags, and her parents began facing the harsh reality of their financial instability. In contrast, Evelyn remained steady with a thriving career and the clarity that came with standing on her own feet. So what about you? Have you ever had to make the hard decision to walk away from family drama? Do you think Evelyn was right to cut ties, or should she have done more to help them? Let's talk about it in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.